Hi everyone, Miss Ella here from Learn to Grow. I hope that you guys are having a great day. Today I'm going to show you how I prune and stake my tomato plants. That indeterminate type of tomatoes is the one that needs to be staked. Determinate type, which I don't have this year, are shorter plants. I think they max about 4 feet tall and they tend to be a little bit more compact. They don't really need a lot of pruning since they don't really get that big. But if you're growing indeterminate type of tomatoes, you want to make sure to stake them and also maybe prune some suckers. Pruning the suckers will lessen your yield, but it'll keep your plants healthy and it won't get out of control. One thing great about growing indeterminate type of tomatoes is that they'll produce tomatoes all throughout the season once the plant matures. If you plant a determinate type of tomato, it'll produce fruits within a 2-week period all at once, and then that's it pretty much for the plants. It won't produce anymore. So I prefer to plant indeterminate type of tomatoes, so I'll get tomatoes all throughout the season. I once grew a tomato plant in one of my garden beds and I didn't prune them. I planted it deep, so this plant got as wide as 5 feet. It just took over the garden box. So I kind of learned my lesson because I wanted to grow more varieties and I'll be able to fit more tomatoes in my garden if I keep them pruned and staked. So let's stake some tomatoes and prune some suckers. Here's a row of tomatoes that's ready for another set of twine, and I generally space out the twine on the stake about 6 to 8 inches apart. I'll show you a closer look, but this is a pretty simple way to stake your tomatoes, and you don't have to buy so many stakes for each tomato plant. This is called the Florida stake. That's a style of the way that I'm staking the tomatoes. I think it's more cost effective because I can have 3 to 4 tomato plants in a row and just 2 stakes on each end. We'll go ahead and tie a twine on the stake all the way to the other end. And before I tie the twine around each stake, I wrap it around twice and I double knot it to keep it secure. And you kind of want to pull tight when you're staking your tomatoes. That way it'll help support the plants as they get bigger and they bear fruit. They'll get heavier, so you want to make sure that the twine is pretty snug. And you'll repeat this on the other side of the tomato plants so you have support on both sides. Here are some younger tomato plants. Now you want to stake your plants right away as soon as you get them in the ground. You want to make sure that your stakes are in the ground at least about a foot deep. So far I've got 1 row of twine, so my next twine will be about 6 to 8 inches. I'm going to go ahead and put a second row here. We've been having some strong winds lately, so it'll keep the plant stable. Got my second row of twine, and if you missed any stem, you can just simply put them under the twine here. Couple of chickens in there. They're about 3.5 months old now. I really have to keep a close eye on them because they scratch and dig up the garden. Don't get too comfortable there. Now we're going to prune some suckers and the lower stems and leaves of these tomato plants. These tomato suckers pop up anywhere in the plants from bottom to top. I'm going to go ahead and pinch this off. I've been pruning off these bottom stems and leaves to prevent the plant from getting blight or other diseases because they're almost touching the ground. So you don't really need all the stems on the bottom. It's okay to trim them off. And if you see these little suckers that grow between the stems, you can go ahead and pinch those off too. Pinching the suckers off, especially in the bottom of the stems, will keep the plants from getting too bushy and wide or heavy. Also for better airflow or air circulation, which will help with water evaporation if the leaves get wet, so that mold or fungi will not grow. So here's how it looks like after I trim off the stems and suckers at the base of my tomato plants. So I've got about 8 to I think 10 inches of space between where the leaves are and the ground. So I'm trying to keep the leaves off the ground to prevent any blight. Now if the leaves and suckers that you're pruned off from your tomato plants have yellow or brown spots, you want to discard them. Don't put them in your compost bin. You'll want to prevent the disease from spreading any further, so just toss them. Well, I hope that you guys are having a great season and found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and happy gardening.